What's good, gamers? We finally have a launch date for patch 10.1.5 Fractures in Time. We're going to be going through the launch date, all of the cosmetic updates, pets, mounts, gameplay changes, everything you need to know to get hyped for patch 10.1.5. The patch is launching on the 11th of July, and this patch is a hell of a lot bigger than what you might expect. It's a 0.5 patch. I want you to keep that in mind as we go through all of these changes. You have a new Evoker specialization, Augmentation. World of Warcraft's first foray into support classes in World of Warcraft. You have time rifts coming. You have new daily content in Eon's Fringe. Whelp Daycare, which, by the way, as someone that don't even care about battle pets all that much, is a lot cooler than what you might think. You have new Warlock Demon specializations, as well as a massive quest chain that comes along with those demon specializations, and then there's a bunch of class updates and stuff that we'll go through towards the end of the video, some of it for live, but a lot of it also coming in Fractures of Time. First, we have the new Evoker spec. I'm not going to waste your time here telling you about the spec and what you can expect from the spec, because I'm pretty sure there are people far more qualified than I to go through all of that. I want to talk about how massive this is. Not only does this come in a 0.5 patch, but more importantly, this is Blizzard's first ever foray into the support specialization. If this goes well, we could probably expect more support classes to follow, and considering that a lot of people prefer a more support-based playstyle, I think this is very good news for World of Warcraft and specifically for its future. And this may actually be one of these changes that in about 5 or 6 years from now, we look back at this moment and go, remember that? Yeah, that was a huge moment for World of Warcraft. So I'm very excited for this one. Next up, we have cosmetics, and there are a ton of cosmetics, but they're all tied specifically to 2 events. The one event, Time Rifts, the other one, Eon's Fringe Dailies. We're going to talk about the Time Rifts first, because the Eon Fringe Dailies is a whole thing on its own. But for the Time Rifts specifically, you're going to get a quest. It's an event right now in the PTR. It's every 45 minutes, but that can change when we get to live. When you pick up the quest, it will ask you to do a bunch of activities in the immediate area. The more activities you do, the higher your reward will be at the end of it. And then a portal opens up. You go through the portal, you kill a mini boss, you get some currency, and then you can buy things from the vendor within that timeline. Literally every single timeline that you can think of at the moment in World of Warcraft for at least some of the more major events. One of them, for example, is Asmorn, where the Scourge won and the Lich King was never killed. And Baron Silver is the vendor there, and you can buy things like the Fragment of Frostmourne, Victorious Scourge Tabard, and the range of the Scourge-bound Vanquisher. I'm not going to go through every single one of the timelines because there's just too many, but I'll show you all of the rewards that you can get on your screen right now. So if you are one of those people that make lists of all the things you want to collect, you can do so right now as we talk about the next topics. Something that I wanted to highlight is that all of the Time Rifts as well as the Eon's Fringe Dailies are completely cosmetic. Blizzard really seems to be sticking to their guns this expansion, saying, hey, the map's going to be busy and there's always going to be something to do, but we do not want to force you into having to do anything, which I, for example, absolutely support. And if that is the future of World of Warcraft, then I am here for it. Personally, the thing that I'm most excited for in the Time Rifts isn't cosmetic. It's actually the Order timeline. I've not been lucky enough to have that timeline spawn for me yet. Maybe I was just not online when it did. But it's a timeline where Order and the Titans were never actually halted. So they're just ordering the shit out of Azeroth, and no one has stopped them. So you're going to go to that timeline and you're going to kill something there. It's going to be cool. I'm really looking forward to it, but that's just sort of my lore brain going nuts with the lore implications of such a timeline. And then we finally have an explanation for quantum items. If you remember correctly from my last video, new quantum items were data mined, as well as a new quantum mount that was data mined. These items appear to be attached to the mega dungeon, and thanks to Mr. GM over on Twitter posting that they had the quantum range drop for them, and when the player clicked it, it automatically turned into a mount that they did not yet have from the past of World of Warcraft. And if this is true, then that suggests that the quantum items may operate exactly the same. So if you don't have a specific cosmetic appearance, it will spawn if you have a quantum item in your bag, which I think is really cool. It gives collectors current content that they can run for things that they may need, especially a lot of the collectors that I know have very rare items that they're still missing. And if that's all you're still missing, this is a really cool thing to do in order to get those last pieces of gear that you may still need. Just wanted to give Mr. GM a shout out there. Thank you so much for clearing that up for us, mate. I debated talking about the next item on the list, Aeon's Fringe Dailies, because by now I'm assuming almost all players will know what the Aeon's Fringe Dailies are, considering the massive controversy that spanned around these dailies. But I'm going to do it anyway, and I will talk about the controversy because there are some updates around that. Aeon's Fringe Dailies, every single day you will get a quest to go back in time and ensure that the events play out exactly the way that they have to play out in order to preserve the present as well as the future of Azeroth. The controversial quest in question here was a quest involving the Dragon Maw during the time of the enslavement of Alexstrasza, where the player was tasked with going back in time and effectively helping the Dragon Maw force Alexstrasza to mate with her consorts. Now, I'm not going to use the words on YouTube because that will get this video demonetized, but you can imagine why a lot of people were like, ooh, that's rough. That is particularly rough. Now, personally, I am the kind of guy that like a dark story. I mean, all of these books are Warhammer 40k books, and this is a dark universe, but there's something that hits very different when it comes to SA and quests that effectively force the player to help in the essay of a very beloved character. It just felt like a very weird questline, and not the way that I would have dealt with that questline. Blizzard have announced, though, that they are changing that questline, so we'll keep an eye out for what the new quest may be. Right now, I imagine they will simply remove that questline. I don't think there is enough time to really make a new quest. The quests overall, though, the remaining ones, some of them are very dark, some of them really cool, and then some of them just very heartwarming. The very dark one that I genuinely think it is going to be a hard one is you go back in time to effectively set up some stones that some good-meaning whelplings removed. These are the exact stones, if you read the book Arthas, where Invincible jumped over, broke both of his front legs, and Arthas was forced to put him down. This was a moment that basically cemented Arthas's resolve to do whatever it takes to defend the innocent. You have to make sure that Invincible breaks both of his legs. That's quite rough. But then there's nice ones, like Rexar meeting Misha. You're going to go back in time and make sure that happens. So, you know, some heartwarming stuff, some not so heartwarming stuff. But Aeon Fringe Dailies, they're gonna be really cool. So I'm very much looking forward to those. And for players that were part of the Rogue Order Hall, there's a specific one where you have to ensure the assassination of a certain SI7 operative so that you can ensure they find out about the Nathrezim. This is definitely something that is gonna be cool. And specifically for lore nerds, I think there are some huge implications for the Bronze Dragonflight as well as the Infinite Dragonflight. But again, I have a video where I'm going to be talking about that later in the week, so not going to go into too much detail here, but definitely worth keeping an eye on, especially if this is content that Blizzard is going to build on. So imagine if in 10.2 we get more additions to the Aeon's Fringe Dailies and more additions to the Time Rifts. Things can get really spicy when we start going back in time and changing things or setting things right. So I'm very excited for this. Lastly, we have the Whelp Daycare. Now, most of you should know about the Whelp Daycare already, but a new addition to the Whelp Daycare that has just been found on the PTR is Storytime. The Whelp Daycare is actually a battle pet questline, so for people that love collecting pets and stuff, but it's also shoehorned with a lot of lore, some of it narrative-based, others more specific. The narrative stuff, it really gives you an insight into the culture of the dragons as you help each of the whelplings from each of the flights find their path in life. So really cool to see that happen. And then story time, the player will tell the little whelps about heroes and moments of Azeroth. Again, just one of these really cool ways of allowing new players, perhaps players that's never played World of Warcraft before, to get a sense of some of the events of World of Warcraft in a way that isn't just obnoxious or, sort of ties the player down into hours and hours of unnecessary content. Really just informs my belief a little bit more that in the future, Dragonflight will be the automatic starting point for every single new player. And from there, they will continue with the old world really just serving as an old world, or perhaps in a revamped Azeroth, the old world becomes a new side quest zone where stories can really be delved into. I don't know yet exactly what that is, but a really cool addition to the game nevertheless. And then a final thing that is coming is the Battle.net friends list is being updated after so long. So for those of you that have a lot of friends and realized, sadly, that the cap is 200, you will be pleased to know that the cap is actually being increased to 400. I'm not sure why they didn't just go for a big old 1,000. Just allow people to have as many friends as they want, especially now with the crossplay. People's friends groups are going to explode. And as a result of that, 400 will probably eventually turn out to be just a little bit too little for people to have all of the people they want to play with in one place. That's a good quality of life change there. Wanted to mention it anyways. So yeah, really cool. Finally, I would be remiss as a news guy if I didn't tell you about some of the live changes that is coming. We have some updates and some hotfixes that is coming your way, should already be live for American players. Of course, us in Europe will have to wait one extra day. I'm not going to go through all of the changes. There's some class changes to the Paladin. There's also some quite a lot of item changes. And then if you are an Aberrus Raider, there's some nerfs coming your way, so keep an eye out for those. Then some bad luck protection to the Vault. Yes, Blizzard seems to have thought, the Vault is fine, but it's still not always the best place to get some gear. So now if you had a week where you particularly didn't get anything, you can buy from the petty vendor the Splintered Spark. And this will allow you to craft a 447 eye level piece of gear. So really nice little, I think, runner-up prize if you had a particularly bad Vault. All in all, good change. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of the video. If you've watched until now, you are a trooper. And for that, please hit the like button because it does help out a ton. Also, leave me a comment telling me exactly what you look forward to the most for patch 10.1.5. To all of the patrons, the YouTube members, and of course the Twitch subs, thank you so much for your monthly support. It does mean the absolute world to me. Without you, content like this would not be possible, and for $1 a month you get access to absolutely everything over on Patreon. For more videos like this one, click any of the videos on your screen right now. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, be kind to each other, be good to each other, and I will see all of you in the next one.